Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode. Before we get into the episode, I would like to ask, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It is free, and it puts a little bit of kibble in my dog bowl, if you know what I mean. Without further ado, let's get into the video. The docking bay of the Horizon was a hub of sleek efficiency. All clean lines, gleaming floors, and crew members moving with precision. A shuttle hissed into its berth, its ramp extending with practiced smoothness. Out stepped Ensign Key Rider, dragging a beat-up duffel behind him, his uniform crisp, but his stride casual, like he was strolling onto a beach instead of a starship. "Yo, squaw, what's the haps?" he called out, grinning ear to ear as his boots hit the deck. "Big vibes, big dreams, ready to jam." Captain Dara Wren, watching from the command balcony above, closed her eyes briefly, as if calling upon divine patience. Beside her, Chief Engineer Joran let out a low whistle. "Is this the rookie?" Joran asked, half laughing. Wren's expression didn't shift. "Unfortunately." Down below, Key was already making an impression. A loading officer approached him, hand outstretched for a handshake. Key immediately went for a complicated hand clap maneuver, leaving the officer frozen in confusion. "No worries, my guy," Key said with a wink, clapping the officer on the shoulder instead. "We'll sync up later." The officer blinked, clearly unsure how to respond. "Ensign Ryder," a voice called sharply. Wren had descended from the balcony, her arms crossed as she approached. Up close, her commanding presence was enough to make most new recruits snap to attention. Key, however, just flashed her a grin. "Cap, yo! Big fan, pumped to be here." "It's Captain Wren," she corrected, her tone frosty. "And you're late." Key shrugged, still smiling. "Nah, just flexing on Terran Standard Time. All good." Wren's lips thinned, but she didn't take the bait. "You will follow protocol aboard this ship, Ensign. Understood?" "Loud and clear, Cap," Key said, saluting in a way that somehow managed to look both proper and completely informal. "By the book, Scout's honor." Wren eyed him for a moment longer before turning on her heel. "Report to your quarters and prepare for the briefing. Chief Joran, make sure our newest crew member doesn't get lost." Joran grinned as he gestured for Key to follow. "Come on, rookie. Let's see if you've got more than slang and swagger." The corridor to the crew quarters was quieter, but Key's voice filled the space anyway. "Yo, Chief, this ride is looking primo. Like top-tier whip, yeah? Gotta give props to whoever's running the boards." "That'd be me," Joran said dryly. "Chief Engineer Miles Joran. And it's not a whip. It is a ship." "Semantics, Chief," Key said, gesturing expansively. "It's fire, either way." Joran raised an eyebrow. "You talk like this all the time?" "Yeah, man. It's the flow," Key said, stepping onto his quarters as the door slid open. "Keeps the vibes chill." "Yeah, well, you'd better cool it during the briefing," Joran replied, leaning against the doorway. "Captain Wren's not exactly known for her tolerance of chill vibes. Get squared away and grab some lunch before the brief." Key dropped his duffel onto the bed and gave Joran a thumbs up. "You got it. No worries, Chief. I'm a pro at reading the room." Joran chuckled as he turned to leave. "Okay. We'll see about that." The mess hall was a symphony of clinking utensils and low chatter as the Horizon's crew took their lunch break. Key Rider strode in, tray balanced on one hand, his other throwing casual finger guns at unsuspecting crewmates. His easy grin contrasted with the ship's usual no-nonsense vibe. "Hey, yo, fam, what's the word? Chow bangin' or mid? Let me cop a seat, don't mind me," he said, sliding into an open spot at the table of junior officers. The group stared at him like he had just dropped from orbit without a chute. The red-haired ensign closest to him cleared his throat. "Yeah, it's fine, I guess." "Fine?" Key shook his head, digging into his tray with exaggerated gusto. Nah, my dude, this fuel slaps. Straight chef's kiss. Y'all need to up the hype. This ain't mid-tier slop. This primo cruise munch. The officers exchanged nervous glances. One whispered, Does he always talk like this? Unfazed, Key leaned forward conspiratorially. So what's the sitch on this moon run? We jamming it clean or we looking at Big Merc energy? What? The red-haired ensign asked, tilting his head. Jammin', my guy. Tight ops, no boomerang drama, one and done vibes. You dig? I do not dig, the ensign said, thoroughly confused. Key smirked, shaking his head like they were missing out on a universal truth. Man, y'all gotta get with the program. This big black grind's more than spreadsheets and scopes. Gotta ride the wave, feel me? Before anyone could figure out how to respond, Lieutenant Graff appeared at the table, arms crossed. His sharp glare immediately silenced the murmurs. Ryder, the captain's waiting, Graff said, his tone clipped. Key stood, saluting with a flourish that somehow felt lazy and theatrical. Aye, LT, no prob. Full lock mode activated. Lead the charge. Graff blinked. Just keep moving. The briefing room was silent except for the faint buzz of the holographic display. The moon rotated slowly in the air, its surface marked by glowing anomalies. Captain Wren stood at the head of the table, her expression a mask of focus. Key lounged at the far end, spinning a pen between his fingers like a drumstick. Wren pointed at the hologram. Preliminary scans indicate electromagnetic fluctuations consistent with mineral deposits. We'll establish a perimeter, collect samples, and document anomalies. Standard survey protocol applies. Standard? More like snooze fest protocol. Key mumbled, leaning back. Wren's gaze snapped to him. Something to add, Ensign? Nah, Cap, just saying. This op's got big caution tape energy, Feels sus as hell. The room went still. Wren's jaw tightened as every officer turned to look at Key, their faces a mix of shock and disbelief. Sus? Wren repeated. Yeah, Cap, sketchy. Like lurk vibes turned up to 11. We talking max sketch potential sits here. Wren took a deep breath, visibly restraining herself. Ensign Ryder, your job is to observe, not to provide commentary. Is that clear? Key gave her a mock salute, grinning. Crystal clear, Cap. I'm just dropping reads. I'll chill, no thrills. The briefing continued, but the tension in the room lingered like static. As the officers filed out, Graff grabbed Key by the arm and pulled him aside. Listen up, Ryder, Graff said, his voice low and firm. Out there's no room for games. You follow orders, you keep your mouth shut, and don't get anyone killed. You got it? Key tilted his head, his grin softening into something almost sincere. Solid, LT, no frets. I'm clocked in when it's crunch time. Graff stared at him for a long moment, and then sighed. You better be. The landing craft's thrusters hissed as they descended through the moon's thin atmosphere. The survey team sat in tense silence, their gear clinking softly with each vibration. Key was in the back, strapped in and bouncing his knee like he was waiting for a concert to start. Yo, this spot's hitting heavy with the creeps, Key said, glancing out the viewport. Whole sitch got me thinking big nope vibes. Like, y'all feeling that? Eyes forward, Ryder, Graff snapped, his own gaze locked on his scanner. Solid, LT, solid, just saying. Moon's screaming stranger danger, I'm picking up the bad juju loud and clear. The landing craft's ramp lowered with a hiss, and the survey team stepped cautiously onto the moon's cracked, dust-coated surface. The faint glow of anomalies pulsed on the horizon, casting an eerie light over the jagged terrain. Lieutenant Graff moved with practiced efficiency, his scanner sweeping back and forth. Perimeter tight, Graff barked. Beacon placement every 50 meters. Keep it clean. Key Ryder brought up the rear, his eyes darting around the landscape. His instincts were screaming like an emergency klaxon, and his hand hovered near his sidearm. Yo, LT, this scene's mad sus. It feels like we're tiptoeing into a big fat nope zone. Graf sighed without looking back. Ryder, either speak standard or stop speaking. I'm saying, LT, bad mojo, big stalker vibes. We're def not alone on this rock. Another crew member muttered. Does he ever make sense? Chill, my dude, Key replied, his grin barely hiding his unease. I'm just dropping the vibe reads. And the vibe? Ultra cursed. The team worked quietly, planting beacons and running scans. Key stayed on edge, his gaze locked on the horizon. The silence was oppressive, thick enough to make every crunch of a boot sound like an explosion. Then, faint but distinct, a scraping noise cut through the stillness. Key froze, his hand shooting to his weapon. Yo, hold the phone! We got creeper energy, 3 o'clock. What? Graf turned, his eyes narrowing. Something sharp, skirting on the rocks, Key said, crouching low. I told you this spot's got big nope sauce. Before Graf could reprimand him, the shadows shifted. Rough, chitinous forms emerged from the jagged terrain, their claws gleaming under the pale light. The Virexians moved with terrifying precision, their multi-limbed bodies darting forward in coordinated attacks. Contact! Graf shouted. Defensive positions! The team scrambled for cover, plasma fire cutting through the air. The Virexians clicked and hissed as they closed in, their movements unnervingly fast. Key ducked behind a rock, his heart pounding as he pulled out his sidearm. Yo, bug bros! He yelled, peeking out just long enough to fire. Back it up! No beef, no smoke, just vibes! His shot went wide, but the noise startled one of the advancing Virexians, making it hesitate. Key used the moment to yell towards the others. Yo, team, we're boxed in tight! Need a flank spank ASAP! What does that even mean? One of the crew shouted back. He means cover the flank! Graf barked, firing at an approaching Virexian. Bingo, LT! Key grinned, even as another plasma bolt zipped over his head. Catching on! The firefight escalated, the Virexians pressing harder. Key saw movement out of the corner of his eye, one of the creatures circling towards the rear. Without thinking, he leapt from cover, waving his arms. Yo, over here! Yeah, I'm talking to you, Claw Boss! He yelled, firing into the dirt at the creature's feet. The Virexian turned, clearly confused by Key's bizarre behavior. The distraction was just enough for the rest of the team to adjust their position, giving them a chance to retreat towards the landing craft. Ryder, fall back! Graf yelled from the ramp, his voice urgent. Key turned to run, but a sudden weight slammed into his back. He hit the ground hard, the air knocked out of him as claws pinned him down. He struggled, but the Virexian was too strong. Its mandibles clicked furiously, and Key could feel the sharp edge of its claws biting into his shoulder. Yo, chill, Claw, bro, I'm out! White flag vibes! Arrgh! He gasped, trying to twist free. The creature didn't relent. As the rest of the team scrambled onto the craft, Key caught a last glimpse of the ramp closing and the thrusters igniting. The roar of the engines drowned out his voice as he was dragged into the shadows. The atmosphere in the Horizon's conference room was heavy with tension. Captain Wren stood at the end of the table, her arms crossed as Lieutenant Graf delivered his report. Ensign Ryder was taken, Graf said bluntly. We were outnumbered and forced to retreat. There was no way to recover him without losing the entire team. Wren's expression hardened. And the mission? Data collected. Anomalies recorded. Graf replied. Primary objectives achieved. Joran, leaning against the wall, snorted. Achieved? We left a man behind. We didn't have a choice, Graf snapped. He stayed to cover the flank. Yeah, and if he hadn't, you'd all be bug chow right now. Joran shot back, stepping forward. The kid's unorthodox, sure, but he's got guts. Wren raised a hand, silencing the argument. Enough. The question is whether we can attempt to rescue without endangering the ship. The room fell into a heavy silence. Finally, Wren sighed. I'll consider our options. Dismissed. Key Rider squirmed in the alien chair, his restraints biting into his wrists. The organic walls of the Virexian interrogation chamber pulsed faintly, like the ship itself was breathing. The two bug-like warriors stood in front of him, their claws twitching and mandibles clicking. Key tilted his head, flashing his signature grin. Yo, bug bros, he said, voice casual despite the circumstances. Let's pump the brakes, yeah? I ain't your golden egg. No need for the claw squat. The taller Virexian hissed. Its clicks and growls filtered through Key's translator patch, though the garbled interpretation barely made sense. State your mission, Terran. Speak clearly. Key raised an eyebrow. Mission? Nah, y'all got the wrong read. I'm just a backbench seat filler on the Star Ride. Straight vibes only tech scout, you feel me? The shorter Virexian hissed something sharp, its mandibles twitching. The translator stumbled through their language, spitting out fragments like deception, coded language, high threat. Key snorted. Coded? Yo, Claw Boss, this is raw freestyle, no encryption, no scripts, just my flow. Pure and simple. The taller Virexian stepped closer, its claws clicking menacingly. Explain. Your vessel, the Horizon. What weapons does it carry? Key leaned back as far as his restraints allowed, his grin somehow widening. Oh, the Horizon? Yeah, she's strapped, no cap. Big drip in the arsenal game. We're talking bang, bang, top shelf, yeah? The translator hesitated and then rendered. He confirms. Advanced weaponry. The two Virexians exchanged a flurry of clicks and hisses, their conversation growing more frantic. Key watched them with a growing amusement. Y'all are tripping hard, he said, shaking his head. Straight up lost in the sauce. Ain't no big booms coming from me. The shorter Virexian hissed back, its claws jabbing toward him. Your Horizon. Armament details. Reveal them. Key raised his eyebrows, deciding to lean in harder. If they wanted to believe that he was some big-shot strategist, why not play the part? All right, let me break it down. The Horizon? She's rolling deep. We got spark torch nukes, grav rippers, and a quantum splitter that'll send y'all to the Shadow Realm. You poke the bear, you get the claws, you dig? The taller Virexian froze, its mandibles clicking slowly. The translator stuttered, struggling to keep up. Quantum splitter? Shadow Realm? Significant danger. Key couldn't help but laugh. Oh yeah, it's all bad news for y'all if you keep pushing. Total game over, big L energy. The shorter Virexian hissed loudly, snapping its claws in frustration. Riddles! Misdirection! This Terran mocks us! Mocking? Nah, I'm just spilling the tea, Key said with a shrug. If y'all want to roll the dice on poking the hornet's nest, that's on you. Meanwhile, back on the Horizon, Captain Wren paced the bridge, her face a mask of grim determination. The crew had been working non-stop to monitor the Virexian ship, but there were no signs of activity. Wren hated the idea of leaving one of her crew behind, but a direct assault seemed impossible. Anything? She asked the sensor operator. Nothing yet, Captain, they replied. The Virexian vessel hasn't moved. It's possible they're interrogating him. Wren's jaw clenched. Interrogating Ryder. That's either a disaster or comedy routine. Joran, standing nearby, chuckled. Knowing Ryder, that's probably both. The kid's got a knack for talking his way out of trouble. Wren sighed, glancing at the tactical display. Let's hope that he's as good at it as he thinks he is. Back in the interrogation chamber, the Virexians were unraveling. The taller one slammed a claw against the wall, the organic structure pulsing in response. Enough riddles! What is the Horizon's true strength? Key tilted his head, feigning a thoughtful expression. Strength? Oh, we're stacked, fam. Got the juice, the boomsticks, the big kaboom maker, but you don't want to see it in action. Trust me, it's a wrap if we let it loose. The translator garbled, spitting out fragmented phrases. Overwhelming, destructive capability, planetary devastation. The short Phyrexian hissed sharply, stepping back from Key as if he'd just confessed to controlling the fate of the galaxy. We cannot provoke them. Risk is unacceptable. Key grinned, sensing his opening. Yeah, smart move, Clawbros. No need for beef when we can keep it all chill, yeah? The taller Phyrexian hissed, and then turned to the other. Their rapid-fire exchange clicked and whirred, the translator struggling to keep pace. Release him. Message to their leaders. No escalation. Key tilted his head, his grin widening. What was that? Y'all letting me bounce? Big ups, my dudes. Good call. The Phyrexians ignored him, their claws working quickly to release his restraints. They shoved him toward a small pod, its hatch already open. Key stumbled inside, glancing over his shoulder. Catch you on the flip side, Claw Squad, he called as the hatch hissed shut. No hard feels, yeah? All peace, no crease? The pod launched moments later, its thrusters kicking him back into the seat. Key leaned his head against the wall, laughing to himself. Man, I'm either a genius or a total nutcase. The docking bay on the horizon hissed as the pod latched onto the ship. The crew waited in tense silence, their expressions a mix of confusion and anticipation. The hatch slid open with a faint whir, and out stepped Key Ryder, looking as casual as if he had just walked off a cruise liner. His uniform was scuffed, his grin wide, and his swagger unmistakable. Hey, yo! Big fam! Back in the vibe zone! Key called out, throwing up a lazy salute. Did you miss me? Bet you were all sweating buckets, huh? Captain Wren stepped forward, her arms crossed and her expression unreadable. Ensign Ryder, she began, her tone clipped. Would you care to explain how you managed to return? Key smirked, leaning on the edge of the pod like he was at a bar. Easy clap, Cap. Bug bros were spinning wheels on max stress. I hit him with the Ryder special. Full sauce, no filters. They folded like deck chairs. Wren blinked, her eyebrow twitching. Clarify. No, right. Let me break it down, Key said, gesturing as he spoke. So, they strap me up, start going ham with the click-clacks, right? I'm just sitting there, like, yo, chill, no beef, no smokes. But nah, they think I'm dropping Black Book coach or something, wild stuff. So I lean in, you feel me? Full big brain mode. The crew stared, completely lost. Joran, leaning against a crate, finally broke the silence with a chuckle. All right, kid. You've got to translate that for the rest of us. Key waved him off. It's simple, Chief. I told him the horizon was strapped to the gills. Planet poppers, galaxy zappers, neutron flippers. Made it sound like one wrong move and boom, whole bug squad's toast. They bought it, they threw me in a pod, and said, bye-bye, scary Terran. Easy dub. Wren's jaw tightened, her gaze piercing. You told the Phyrexians that the horizon was a galactic superweapon. Key shrugged. Yep. Sold it like a hot hollow ad. They were sweating bad. Thinking we're out here with the galaxy's biggest boomsticks. Lieutenant Graff, standing off to the side, ran a hand down his face. I can't believe that worked. Key grinned wider. I'll believe it, LT. Bug Bros got played like a thrift guitar, Ryder style. Wren sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. Ryder, you may be the most unconventional officer I've ever had. But somehow, against all odds, you managed to survive. Just don't make it a habit of getting captured. Key saluted lazily. Copy that, Cap. Only when the vibes demand it. As the crew burst into laughter, even Wren couldn't help but crack a faint smile. For all his quirks, Key had proven himself in the most unexpected way. The mess hall buzzed with chatter later that evening, The crew huddled in small groups as the story of Key's return spread like wildfire. Key, naturally, was in the center of it all, holding court at one of the long tables. "So there I am," Key said, leaning forward dramatically. "Claws in my face, bug bros clicking like they trying to hack the mainframe. And I'm just sitting there, like, yo, really want to poke the big dog? And they start freaking. Oh no, tearing secrets, big boobs, straight comedy, man." A young ensign tilted her head. Big booms means weapons?" "Bingo, little fam," Key said, pointing at her with finger guns. "Catching on quick." Another crew member raised an eyebrow. "And poke the big dog means?" "It means don't mess with the horizon, duh," Key said, rolling his eyes. "Y'all gotta get fluent in rider speak. I'm dropping gems here." Joran strolled by, laughing as he overheard. "Kid, you're a walking disaster. But I'll give you this. You got guts." "Appreciate it, Chief," Key said, tipping an imaginary hat. "Just riding the vibe wave, you know?" The next morning, Key was summoned to Captain Wren's quarters. The walk there felt like a slow trek toward judgment, but Key kept his usual swagger intact. When the door slid open, Wren was waiting, her arms crossed and her expression unreadable. "Ensign Ryder," she said, her tone calm but firm. "Sit." Key plopped into the chair across from her desk, his grin intact. "Yo, Cap, what's the word?" Wren leaned forward, her fingers steepled. "Let me be clear. Your methods are unconventional, to say the least. Your behavior, frankly, borders on insubordination, and your language is almost incomprehensible." Key nodded, completely unfazed. "Fair reads, Cap, no cap." "But," Wren continued, her gaze softening slightly, "you showed remarkable adaptability under pressure. You kept your head in a situation that would have broken most, and somehow you turned it to our advantage." Key tilted his head. "Is that a dub in the writer column?" Wren's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Against all odds, yes. Consider this your warning, and your commendation. Going forward, I expect you to channel that energy of yours into being a productive member of this crew. Understood?" Key shot her a lazy salute. "Loud and clear, Cap. Full send, no skips." Wren shook her head, her faint smile now visible. "Dismissed, Ensign. And Ryder, try to keep the slang under control." Key grinned as he stood. "No promises, Capo. It's a lifestyle." By the end of the week, Key had become something of a legend aboard the Horizon. His antics were the talk of every corner of the ship, and even the senior officers found themselves unintentionally repeating his slang. In the mess hall, Key hosted an impromptu slang school, standing at the head of a table while a crowd of junior crew members took notes. "Aye, class, let's jam. Lesson 1, juice. That means power, energy, the good stuff. Example, the engines are juiced. Got it?" Juiced means powered up?" one ensign asked hesitantly. Key nodded, giving them a thumbs up. "Bingo! You're on the wave!" "And big booms means weapon?" another asked. "Yep. Big boom, big kaboom, the heavy hitters," Key said. "Next level, vibes. That one's a wild card. Could mean mood, could mean situation, it could mean, well, vibes. It's context, peeps." Captain Wren walked by, overhearing the chaos. She paused, shaking her head with an exasperated sigh, but unable to hide the faint smirk creeping onto her face. Later that day, during a routine meeting in the bridge, Key delivered his status report with his usual flair. "All decks running smooth," he said, leaning against the console. "Engines, juice to the max. Crew, big chillin'. This op's looking like a 10 out of 10, no cap." Wren's lips twitched as she turned to him. "All right, Ensign. Let's jam this op quick-like, fam." The bridge fell silent. Key's mouth dropped open as he stared at her, eyes wide. "Yo, Cap," he said finally, a slow grin spreading across his face. "You just made my day." The bridge erupted into laughter, and even Ren couldn't help but join in. For the first time since he'd arrived, Key Rider felt like he truly belonged. Captain Dara Wren stood at the podium in the Terran Council chambers, the faint hum of the room's energy dampeners making the silence feel heavier. The semicircular bench of counselors gazed down at her with expectant, scrutinizing expressions. Wren straightened her uniform, the only outward sign of the inner patience she was summoning. "Counselors," she began, her tone crisp and formal. "I appreciate this opportunity to present my report on an unexpected development aboard the Horizon. This pertains to the evolution of crew communication practices, particularly the use of slang." A faint ripple of surprise passed through the council. Counselor Markov leaned forward slightly, his sharp eyes narrowing. "Slang? Captain, the fleet prides itself on discipline and professionalism. I trust this matter was swiftly addressed." Wren exhaled softly, her lips twitching in the faintest hint of a smile. "Addressed, Counselor? Initially, I discouraged it entirely." Wren tapped a control on the podium, bringing up a hologram of Ensign Key Rider's first briefing aboard the Horizon. The recording showed a younger, more formal Wren at the head of the table, while Rider slouched near the back, spinning a pen between his fingers. "We've detected anomalies on the moon's surface," Wren's holographic self explained. "Standard survey protocols apply. Lieutenant Graff will lead the team. Ensign Rider, you will observe and follow orders. Do you understand?" Ryder grinned, leaning back. "Clear as glass, Cap. Chill vibes only, yeah?" Wren paused the recording, her face carefully neutral. At the time, Ryder's speech, what he called vibes, was a source of irritation for me and confusion for the crew. Terms like juice the engines, big booms, and full send were unintelligible and appeared to undermine the seriousness of our missions. Counselor Riss frowned, her tone sharp. "And you allowed this behavior to continue?" Wren shook her head. "Not at first. I reprimanded them repeatedly, insisting that he adhere to standard communication protocols. However," she hesitated, her expression softening, "that was before Ryder was captured by the Virexians." Wren changed the hologram to a clip of Ryder's return. The pod docked, the hatch opened, and out stepped Ryder, disheveled but grinning like he'd just pulled off the galaxy's greatest prank. His voice echoed in the recording. "Yo, squad, you miss me?" Bug Bros folded hard. They couldn't hang with the Ryder flow. The clip froze, and Wren turned back to the council. "Ensign Ryder's unconventional speech, while I had dismissed as unprofessional, became the very thing that saved his life, and quite possibly our ship." Counselor Markov raised an eyebrow. "Explain." Wren tapped the control again, this time playing an excerpt from the Horizon's recordings of Virexian communications. The clicks and hisses were punctuated by Ryder's voice overlaid with translation errors. Yo, Bug Bros, chill the claws. Horizon's strapped with juice cannons and galaxy zappers. Y'all don't want this smoke." The Virexian's translators garbled the response. "Terran vessel. Overwhelming arsenal. High threat. Risk unacceptable." Wren paused the hologram. "The Virexians mistook Ryder's slang for advanced coded language. Terms like juice cannons and big booms were interpreted as reference to high-grade weaponry. Convinced that they were outmatched, they released him to avoid provoking a confrontation." Counselor Riss shook her head in disbelief. "You're telling us that slang, Terran slang, was mistaken for sophisticated military jargon?" Wren nodded. "Precisely. Ryder's speech, which I had discouraged as unprofessional, created a layer of linguistic obfuscation that not only confused the Virexians, but also gave us a tactical edge. In that moment, his slang became a form of unintentional encryption." The hologram shifted to show a later engagement with the Virexians. Alarms blared on the bridge as the crew worked with rapid efficiency. Wren's recorded self barked orders. "Juice the shields! Graff, watch for skirt moves on their flank! Full send evasive!" The recording froze, and Wren addressed the council. After Ryder's return, elements of his slang began to integrate into our operations. Initially, it was informal, used sparingly and in low-stakes scenarios. But as the crew grew more comfortable with it, we realized its potential. It allowed us to communicate with brevity and precision, even under intense pressure. Markov frowned slightly. Captain, are you not concerned that this compromises professionalism aboard your ship? Wren met his gaze evenly. Counselor, professionalism is defined by results. The Horizon operates with discipline and efficiency. Ryder's language, while unconventional, has fostered cohesion and adaptability. It has not replaced standard protocols, but enhanced them. She gestured to another clip, this one of a training simulation. Ryder led a group of junior officers, his voice animated as ever. Listen up, fam! Shields juiced, thrusters chillin', we're rolling smooth. If I call skirt left, you skirt hard, no cap, full send. Y'all know the drill. The trainees laughed, but nodded, responding to Ryder's slang-laden commands with precision as the simulation played out. Wren paused the video. What you see here is a crew engaged and responsive. Ryder's language keeps them focused, even under simulated stress. Counselor Riss raised a hand. And what of the broader implications? Are you suggesting that slang should be adopted across the fleet? Wren shook her head. Not at all. This approach is situational. It emerged organically aboard the Horizon, tailored to our crew's dynamic. Imposing it on other vessels would be counterproductive. However, I believe it demonstrates the importance of adaptability. Communication should serve the mission, not the other way around. Markov tapped his fingers thoughtfully. And the crew has embraced this cultural shift? Wren's lips quirked into a faint smile. Completely. Even I found myself saying things like big booms or vibe check without thinking. Markov raised an eyebrow. Captain Wren, vibe check? Wren chuckled softly. A routine status request. Counselor, it's become shorthand for asking about operational readiness. Wren straightened, her tone shifting as she delivered her conclusion. Counselors, when Ryder first came aboard, I saw his language as a liability. I was wrong. What I failed to recognize was the power of shared language, not just for efficiency, but for building trust and morale. In the vast uncertainty of space, where crises can escalate in seconds, sometimes the best tool isn't a protocol, it's a connection. And Ryder's slang gave us that. Markov regarded her for a long moment before nodding. You have made your case, Captain. Is there anything further? Wren smiled faintly. Only this. The Horizon's crew is juiced, our ops are tight, and the vibes are impeccable. We're ready for anything. A ripple of laughter passed through the council. Even Markov allowed himself a faint smile. Dismissed, Captain. Wren saluted sharply before turning to leave. As she exited the chamber, her steps carried the subtle swagger of someone who had not only proven their point, but embraced a new perspective. The docking bay of the Horizon thrummed with activity as Captain Dara Wren stepped off of the shuttle. The faint hiss of hydraulics and the clatter of cargo crates filled the air. But the moment her boots hit the deck, the energy shifted. Crew members paused mid-task, straightening or nodding in acknowledgement of their captain's return. Wren adjusted her jacket, scanning the bay with a practiced eye. Before she could take a step further, a familiar voice cut through the noise. Hey yo, Cap! Back in the juice zone! Ensign Key Ryder leaned casually against the stack of crates, his grin as wide as ever. His uniform was predictably askew, his boots scuffed, but his salute was surprisingly sharp, if still distinctly Key. Wren smirked as she approached him, hands clasped behind her back. Ryder, still holding it down, I see. Holding tight, Cap. Crew's vibing, ops are smooth, and the big black's calling our name. Key replied, pushing off the crate. We're prepped to full send whenever you're ready to drop the hammer. Before Wren could reply, Chief Joran strolled by, carrying a toolkit and nodding towards the captain. Cap, ship's put in like a juiced tiger. Engines are mint, shields are max, and I even got the port side thruster greased for extra skirt." Ren quirked an eyebrow.
"Extra skirt, Chief?"
Joran shrugged, a grin tugging at his lips. You know, for those spicy maneuvers, just in case Ryder decides to charm us into another Verexian dance."
"Yo, that's facts,"
Key chimed in, laughing.
"Chief's got us prepped to vibe hard. Big ups for the foresight."
Ren shook her head, though her expression was warm. "Good to know. Let's see if the rest of the ship is as juiced as you claim." The corridor to the bridge was alive with chatter as Ren made her way through the ship. Crew members greeted her as she passed, their language peppered with slang that had become second nature. "Cap, bridge is looking tight," a technician called out. "Scopes are crispy, comms are smooth, big go vibes all around." "Big go vibes," Ren repeated under her breath, half amused as she stepped onto the bridge. The moment she entered, Lieutenant Graff snapped to attention. "Captain on deck!" He barked, his voice sharp despite the slang creeping into his tone. The rest of the bridge crew stood, saluting in near-perfect unison. "At ease," Ren said, motioning them to return to their stations. She took her place in the captain's chair, her eyes scanning the tactical displays. "Report." Graff leaned over his console, his expression a mix of professionalism and begrudging acceptance of the ship's new linguistic norms. "All systems green, Cap. Shields are chilling at 100. Juice on the engines is solid, and weapons are locked for full boom if needed." Ren tilted her head, a faint smirk appearing. "I assume locked for full boom means the weapon systems are operational?" Graff nodded, his lips twitching. "Yep. Locked, loaded, and ready to vibe." From across the bridge, Key chimed in, leaning on the back of an empty chair. "I told you, Cap. Crew's dialed in. We are a well-oiled hype train." "Which I'm sure you had nothing to do with," Ren said dryly. Key placed a hand on his chest, feigning offense. "Well, Cap, come on. I'm the vibe guy." "The ship's slang game is elite because I keep it fresh." Graff rolled his eyes, muttering, "Fresh is one word for it." "Don't hate the flow, LT," Key shot back, grinning. Ren raised a hand, cutting off the exchange. "Enough. Let's focus. Graff, what's the timeline for departure?" Graff straightened, all business now. "Pre-flight checks are 90% complete, Captain. We're ready to go in 20 minutes. "Good," Ren said, her voice firm. She stood, letting her gaze sweep across the bridge. "Crew of the Horizon, we have faced every challenge thrown at us, from sketching moons to hostile fleets, and through it all, we have stayed locked, juiced, and ready to full send." The crew chuckled softly at her words, their energy fresh. "We're about to head back into the unknown," Ren continued, "so I need every one of you dialed in. Tight comms, tight vibes, and no skips. You've proven time and time again that you're the best crew on the fleet. So let's show the galaxy why." A cheer rose from the crew, with Key leading the charge. "Big sand energy, Cap! Let's rip!" As the Horizon broke free from its docking clamps and began its ascent, the bridge buzzed with quiet confidence. Ren watched the stars come into view, their faint glow cutting through the darkness of space. She leaned back in her chair, allowing herself a rare moment of satisfaction. Key strolled up to her side, hands stuffed in his pockets. "Back to the big black, huh, Cap?" Ren glanced at him, and then back at the stars. "Where we belong, Ryder." "Vibes are immaculate," he said with a grin. Ren smirked, her gaze steady. "They'd better be. We've got a galaxy to explore." And with that, the Horizon surged forward, her crew ready for whatever lay ahead.